Sekeres Price for Friday, May 17th, 2024. We're coming to you from the Nation Network studio, built by Arbor Lee here at the iconic Wall Center in downtown Vancouver. And if you have an event or a game or something you're attending down here, why not make it a staycation? Call the Wall, 604-331-1000. Ask for the Sekeres Price rate. Date supply. Matt Sekeres alongside Blake Price. Grady Sass hitting switches and conducting things with intern Sean Chessman on his final day. He brought Timbits. It's what every good intern should do. Day one or final day, Timbits. We got a big show coming up for you, and it's all a presentation of Applewood.
Why are the Timbits so close to me is what I want to know.
The Timbits have been on Blake's side of the studio the entirety of the day.
Had 3.
That's why they're empty.
Maybe 5. Applewood, Nissan, and Langley. Great deals right now on the revolutionary 2024 Nissan Leaf. Go electric, folks. $83 weekly with the rebates. There's a $5,000 rebate. There's a $4,000 rebate. Get them both. And all that with just $39.99 down. Check it out. Applewood, Nissan, and Langley. It's all good at Applewood.
Our poll question today: how does this series end? Canucks in 6, Canucks in 7, Oilers in 7. You can vote at Sekeres Price on X or YouTube.
You're going X. Okay.
Well, I got a note yesterday.
Okay.
So.
Okay.
I voted Canucks in 6. The Edmonton Oilers now, after losing Game 5 here at Rogers Arena late on Thursday, have a big goaltending decision to make. Their stars are fading here, and it may well be because they were overplayed and are now fatigued.
Reports of injury for McDavid and Hyman now.
Well, from Tim Peel. And former NHL official Tim Peel. And we've experienced this here in Vancouver before. Gosh, Game 7 against Chicago in 2011. That building will be tighter than a fill in the blank. It's going to be tense because, of course, the hope and expectation of everyone associated with the Edmonton Oilers.
Tighter than a Grady Sass t-shirt.
Like it.
Wow.
Is a Grady Sass t-shirt tighter than a Darren Detition t-shirt? Because your boy Dutchy loved the tight.
You did love it, yeah.
Yeah. Watched that last night on TSN with Jennifer, James Duthie, and Rod Smith. No, but as we know, sometimes the players feed off the energy of the crowd. And, boy, if Canucks get an early goal, that building is going to be nervous. So, anyways, I'm voting Canucks in 6. I picked them in 5, so I'm hoping to make it look a little better too.
I think I'll probably copy you. I know it's better if our answers are different, but it's funny when series go like this, like the Canucks Pred series. It was anybody's series through 5 games, and then all of a sudden you blink and it's done in 6. It didn't even go the distance. Like that was a very close, and you get the feeling that could happen here, where it's the tightest series imaginable. But there's a little something there for the Canucks to build on. And I know momentum doesn't go from game to game, but learnings do. And I think the Canucks learned something about themselves last night, that they can be the better team. They can take the play to the Oilers. And they needed proof of concept there, I think, for a long, long time, that they were allowed to be the aggressors. They were allowed to be the better team. And they went out and they did it.
Yeah. Let's get our top story. It is brought to you by Mr. Lube. Canucks on the brink of their first Western Conference final and NHL Final 4 in 13 years after their best game of the postseason, a 3-2 victory over Edmonton with a thrilling game-winning goal in the final 30 seconds from JT Miller.
Or JT Miller. As it rung through the
Did it ever
streets of Vancouver, for heaven's sakes, until the midnight hour. Crazy game. We called for the complete game, and it's one thing for us in our chairs to call for a complete game, but it came. It was as complete an effort as you can possibly get in the playoffs, because in the playoffs, you're not going to be perfect unless it's just such a lopsided series.
They set a postseason high in shots.
Yes.
They probably had their best defensive effort, at least given the opponent and given the star power of the opponent. The penalty kill went perfect 5 for 5. Oilers first time all postseason they didn't score a power play goal.
No points again for McDavid.
Goal from the fourth line.
Right. Goal from the defense.
Yeah.
And Artie.
Party.
Just continue to do what he does. Point blank shots, staring him down. Our top story brought to you, as always, by Mr. Lube. No appointment necessary. You need some tire work done? No appointment necessary. You're used to that for the lube, but for the tires as well. Yeah, it's true. Drop by anytime for rotation, repair, balancing, and that's all makes and models, even the EVs. 16 locations in the Lower Mainland. Go to mrlube.com.
Shout out to the guys at the Arbutus location, too. That's the place I go. JT Miller, the game-winning goal. He wins 13 of 20 faceoffs, a 67% expected goals for in 9 minutes plus of even strength ice time against Connor McDavid. The Oilers superstar has just 2 shots in that span. Oh, and by the by, he beats McDavid on the game-winning goal. Let's hear from the straw that stirs the Canucks drink, JT Miller, on his response in Game 5 after he was really tough on himself for the mistakes at the end of Game 4.
I have faith in myself. I mean, I speak honestly with you guys, whether it's good or bad, and didn't really just like my game the other night, at the end of the day, and I thought that kind of transitioned into being the reason we got scored on late in the game. So, I mean, I was honestly evaluating myself, and then, yesterday and today I just got focused and just thought as a team we all played a solid hockey game today.
They did.
He would go on to talk about how his line had been giving McDavid and Draisaitl too much respect. Farhan Lalji tweeted about this. Says they've been playing, quote, not to get scored on.
Yeah.
Instead of trying to be aggressive and initiate.
Which goes back to what we were talking about.
And this was something we were talking about for several days, particularly after McDavid and Draisaitl had the huge game in was it Game 3 where they had all the points? The 4-point night?
Game 2. Game 2.
Game 2. It wasn't enough to just have good defensive tactics, gap control, all of those things, shot blocks, all of those things against McDavid and or Draisaitl if they're on the ice together or even centering separate lines in the defensive zone. You had to force them to play some defense themselves by possessing the puck and having your own zone time. Coach Tocchet has, and it's a little bit counterintuitive, has talked about possession in the offensive zone and passing it around and waiting for that better opportunity, that quality over quantity chance is also a defensive tactic because it means the other team doesn't have the puck and is far away from the scoring zone. I also like how JT went on to talk about Game 5, saying all the forwards worked harder, getting lower in the zone and helping the defense break out. And he talked about how that allows them to set up their forecheck in transition. Not to mention the fact you need team defense. You need the 3 forwards playing a defensive posture against the likes of these Oilers stars. So, not only is he playing superior hockey right now and has the market falling in love with him, it wasn't already in love with him, and being a voice and a leader in that room, he's also given us the tactical breakdown, X's and O's on a daily basis of how this series is going down.
And those tactics are crucial. But I think, and you mentioned part of it there, I also think it comes down to a very basic tenet. I think they worked harder. And I don't think they were being lazy. I don't think they were being lazy in the first few games of the series at all. But there is a difference between the 100 and the proverbial 110%. And I think we saw that difference. The wall battles, there was a concerted effort of, I'm not losing this puck, or at least I'm not going to lose it in a manner in which it allows you to head the other way with advantage. It's like if they knew that they were going to lose it because maybe it was a 2-on-1 along the boards, the players were being very smart in positioning themselves. Watch how they do that. They squeeze, they move themselves into that defensive posture along the board so that I'm going to lose this puck battle, but I'm going to make sure that 2 of you don't get past me whilst that happens. Just smart work, hard work.
There wasn't a lot of puck watching. There wasn't a lot of pause hockey, as Tocchet called it in Game 4. Then the most endearing story of the evening. And if you missed Phil Giuseppe's interview on TNT post-game, go look for it. Google homework, as Blake says. because he gets asked about being away from the team, that him and his Mrs. Maggie had a baby boy, Sam. He calls the shot saying, I may get choked up here a little bit, and then gets quite emotional talking about his wife and his baby and saying it was a difficult pregnancy and they both battled for 9 months so he could go out and battle for 60 minutes. Phil, daddy, Giuseppe, and JT Miller remarked on this post game as well that new fatherhood is the thing. Take a listen.
Well, he's got the baby legs. It's a real thing. And I swear it's a real thing. I swear I've seen it like a lot now where guys come in and play their best game. Does something to you, your brain, and he was unbelievable. That line just created a lot of energy, and I thought it's a contagious thing when our team skates and we create stalls in the forecheck. It seems like we do it for the next 10 minutes every time. Like, it's contagious in our lineup, and they did a hell of a job tonight of driving play and creating long shifts, and then all they have is the punch out, and we get to go right back down their throat. I mean, it happens a lot like that for us. So when we skate, and their line was a big part of that, we're hard to handle as a group.
That's our show right there. Like, honestly, a great breakdown of what they did in that game that they didn't do for the most part in any of the other games. The coming at them in waves and the pace was just a different feel.
Yeah, for sure. Particularly after the first 10 minutes of the hockey game, when really they took a lot of penalties and didn't do a whole lot. From that point forward, They were fantastic. Jim Nantz, the CBS golf commentator, after a few guys won majors after becoming dads, was trotting out a phrase there, beware the new father. You can speak to this more than me as a dad of 4. You bring a new baby home, like nothing else matters, right? Everything else is, well, stress-free, pressure-free, what have you, because
particularly the first couple, it gets a little old hat, third and fourth, but yeah.
Blake worked the nights of his third and fourth child. I hope they're not watching. Love you, girls. But, like Blake was, honestly, I watched it with my very own eyes one night. I think it was your fourth. Oh, yep, there's the call. Got to run, guys. DT and I.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm not of much service. So, but, hey, the excitement is there, and I hope it lasts for Phil Giuseppe. I hope he's just as excited about this little baby for Game 6 as it is for Game 7 for his own sake, because that felt like a different player being dropped into the lineup for the Vancouver Canucks.
Grady, do me a favor. I'm not of much service. Let's clip that. Here's Tocchet on his fourth line from last night, because it was more than just Phil, Daddy Giuseppe.
That Podzi played really well. Deej was, he had his kid there, so he said that was a big highlight, but the cherry on top tonight, him getting the goal. I mean, it's a pretty good story. Thought Alms was good. I thought that fourth line really helped us. I thought it was good for us.
You were calling for Podkolzin. Coach praised him. We said on yesterday's program, or I guess 2 days ago, if you're making changes up front, okay, have at her. Wanted to see Höglander back in there. You want to see Podkolzin. Giuseppe coming back. The one guy we said was, Alman was a little better than some of the other passengers. Leave Alman if you can.
I was ready to give McCabe one last chance instead of PDG. I didn't know that we had this.
Ditto.
I didn't know we had this big dad energy coming. But he brought it. So you're back for Game 6 there, PDG.
Vancouver with a postseason high 35 shots on goal. They outshoot Edmonton 18-4 in the middle period and have a 7-0 edge in high danger chances. The second period was probably their best period of the postseason within the game. That was their best in the postseason.
And escape it with a 2-2 draw after 2. And I have to admit, a big part of me was the Vancouver Canucks have stolen 2 to 3 games in the postseason in which they weren't the best team on the ice and they got wins. And I kind of thought to myself, you know what? Turnabout's going to be fair play. If they don't win this game, hard to whine about it. The Canucks have won a bunch of games that they didn't deserve. Sometimes you lose games that you did deserve. And I was ready for that to be the narrative after the game, but they found a way in the third period. despite a little bit of pushback. The third period was a little bit better from the Oilers.
Yeah,
shots were more even.
They've also been physical in this series. 40 plus hits in every game.
Yep.
Elias Lindholm, who gets an assist, 7 high danger scoring chances, draws a penalty, 10 of 19 in the face-off dot. And look, the job they have done on Connor McDavid has been extraordinary.
Mm-hmm.
That's a couple games in a row here without a point. Of course, he did not have a shot on goal in game 1, the first time in his postseason history that has happened. And how about I was going to get to that Trent tweet, Grady, about that line.
One step ahead of you.
Yeah, the Corsi at 61.9%, the goal expected goals at 64, the shots at 63%, scoring chances 66, high danger 66. There was so much to like there with Elias Pettersson playing with Elias Lindholm. But just previously, Grady, the Paul Paduti tweet at Adjusted Hockey. This is astonishing. The Canucks limit Connor McDavid to a 16.5 expected goal share at 5-on-5, according to Natural Stat Trick. Paul went back and discovered that is Connor McDavid's lowest in 390 games. As he tweets, you have to go back to pre-COVID, November 2nd, 2019 at Pittsburgh to find a lower mark. And Blake, Connor McDavid at even strength in the postseason has been outpointed by Nikita Zadorov 7-6.
Mm-hmm.
1 point over his last 3 games. He looks off.
Which is apparently his worst stretch as an Oiler, I think. I think it's amongst his worst stretches, getting just 1 point in 3 playoff games.
He's got more dives per 60 right now than points.
More on this in a second. With the victory, the Vancouver Canucks have earned their 17th postseason victory of the decade when you throw in the bubble of 2020. That is one more than the Toronto Maple Leafs.
Boom, just like
who
that.
are in the playoffs every single year.
Yes.
The Canucks have been in 2 postseasons.
Yeah.
And are up to 17 victories. So they're taking us on a ride here. And Elias Pettersson, he went on a ride. You see the Daily Hive story? Elias on a scooter crossing the Burrard Bridge. That was after the not so happy press conference.
Oh, really?
A couple of days ago.
I love it.
The fans were chanting his name last night at Rogers Arena as a means of encouragement. Let's go, Petey. And he was asked about that in the postgame after, of course, being in on the game-winning goal.
Means a lot. Always encouraging to have the fans behind you, or I always have that here, but just to hear them chant my name and it just makes me want to work even harder for them.
And he's, he just changed into a different player. Again, we haven't seen him sniping corners just yet.
No, that's still
to come. Mm-hmm. But these guys haven't played together much during the season. I know they have some minutes together. And I do think that there is the potential that does come for him. Incidentally, the scooter stuff, it's giving me Weather Network Luongo vibes. There's an everyman.
That's how Daily Hive framed the story.
Yeah.
It's almost like Roberto running the seawall.
Yeah. Everyman.
Sir, can we get you for a moment? Weather Network here. What do you make of the weather here recently in Vancouver?
No key though, no font.
No, exactly.
But I think he's and he made it clear. Oh, they're always like that. He sort of saved it.
Yeah.
I think he feels.
Here's the thing. Patrick Johnson said, tweeted, he was loose, he was funny, he was smiling. Now, of course, a large part of that is the victory, a big playoff victory. But I also wonder whether somebody got to him. I also wonder whether it was his agents. Seen his parents at games, whether it was Canucks PR staff, whether somebody pulled him aside and said, Elias, you're not doing yourself any favors with media availabilities that go like that. That's not a way to endear yourself at a time when you're struggling.
I think it also might have been.
Here.
I think it might have been this conversation, Matt. don't take for granted where you are right now. There are teams, you just showed the Toronto Maple Leafs stat, getting to the 2-win plateau of the second round.
Mm-hmm. 3 wins now.
Now 3. Mm-hmm. Doesn't happen a lot.
Nope.
Don't take it for granted that, I'm just in a slump. I'm a little down on myself.
Yeah.
Find a way not to be down on yourself, because you won't be in this situation every year.
Right.
And you don't know when the next time will be.
It comes off as selfish, right? Like it's an exciting time. Tocchet talked about this. It's an exciting time.
Yeah.
He should be excited.
And he looked a little more
as well as taking some of the blame on his own shoulders too, and saying that's my job. I've got to help him out, and help him. He did, putting him on the line with Lindholm and Höglander.
Yeah.
Now, Elias was one of a number of players, 5 or 6, 5 to 7 at one point, Tocchet said, coming out of game 4, who were passengers. And once again, this looks like another master stroke from the Canucks head coach. As a matter of fact, right now, he'd get my vote for the Conn Smythe Trophy. Can you win a Jack Adams and a Conn Smythe Trophy? In the no, it's supposed to go to a player.
Yeah,
but it just seems like the Midas touch. Everything he tries here works.
Well, I'll go right down to the last shift. I mean, would anyone have batted an eyelash if it was Lindholm, Besser, and Miller out there?
Right. No
one would have batted an eyelash. The coach said, I believe in you.
Yeah.
You're going tonight.
Yep.
And so it was Pettersson out there and not Besser.
Right.
When everything tells you the way Besser's played in this series and in this postseason, he should be your sniper to get you the game-winning goal. And they trusted him. And, it's a lucky assist there with the skate to some degree, although he moves the skate. You wonder how much intent was in there. But he's doing the dirty work in front of the goal. Like, you still have to give him credit for being where he was. He was a part of the game-winning goal.
Yeah. What I'm saying is, as a head coach, you cannot be calling people and players out publicly on a regular basis. So you have to pick a spot. And the spot can't be just out of your own personal anger and frustration. It's got to be a strategically picked spot. And typically, it's got to come at a time when, you don't have a lot of margin. I think 2-2, and the way they lost the game against Edmonton, game 4 in Edmonton, when really for the first time all postseason, I think you could look at effort level and say it really wasn't there. Maybe the second time. That was the spot to pick.
Mm-hmm.
And it worked beautifully. So here's Coach Tocchet on the players responding to his challenge.
I'm an honest guy, and they're an honest group. They love feedback. Sometimes it's, you got to be careful with the messaging. And they take it. I mean, that's the one thing I love this group. Even the guys that didn't play today, they were smiling, they were cheering the guys. I love that. So that's what you play for the crest. Doesn't mean they have to be happy that they're out, but you could see there were a lot of smiles in that room for even the guys that didn't play. I love that. So the bounce back or whatever you want to call it, it's been all year. I mean, it happened a few times this year where it wasn't going. We didn't like our effort, and we dealt with it. And we usually bounce back. So it's all the players. You got to give them a ton of credit.
And the Oilers are saying the exact same thing right now. And that's going to be Tocchet's, charge, his job here over the next 25 hours is to get his team ready for their bounce back, because they are pretty sure that they are bouncing back. And every team has this series. It's been win-loss, win-loss. So another job ahead for Tocchet. He ain't done here.
No. Now, we'll talk to Frank Seravalli later. He'll have the Thatcher Demko update, but things are tracking pretty well for Thatcher Demko if they need him for Game 7 of this series, which is a very interesting call should we get there. Ilya Mikheyev, healthy scratched for Game 5, but as Dan Murphy reported, he's playing through something. Now, he's not playing through something that would is it a knee? Did I see the reporting on
I
that
didn't see
today?
a body part, but okay.
I thought maybe it was Dollywall who saw a knee.
Yeah, he mentioned the knee.
Right. Now, it's not big enough that he wasn't able to go. I mean, he was rinsed in the morning skates, so it's something he could play through. you do wonder where this is heading this summer with Ilya Mikheyev.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I wonder if
that's
there's
a buyout possibility here,
if there's a cleanup surgery. Is there
Well,
a little tweak that needs to be attended to?
Maybe if there's a cleanup surgery, he helps you as an LTIR guy, right?
Well, if it's arthroscopic or something, he's back anyway. But
sure, but yeah. And then I do think, and Tocchet has shown a I don't want to say a propensity, but unlike a lot of NHL coaches, a willingness to make a change to a winning lineup from time to time. And I do wonder whether you have to look at Noah Juulsen for Ian Cole.
Another tough
at
night.
This stage of the game. It is another tough night for Ian Cole. It was
the only
giveaways
really
in the first period. I think it was Farhan Lalji who told us earlier in the week. It just looks fast for him. Of course, he's not the fleetest of foot. He's a mid-30s defenseman now.
He looked exhausted too.
Juulsen's a natural righty. Juulsen's physical. Juulsen kills penalties. Yes, he made a loud mistake in the one game he played for Carson Suzuki, and he didn't have a great
playoff it's a dozen minutes
against Nashville. But
it's a dozen minutes. Noah Juulsen can handle a dozen minutes, and I think he's a little bit more sure with the puck.
Yep. It is on the road, so he may see some McDavid or Draisaitl. He's going to have to be prepared for that.
Yeah, he's not going to be as nervous. This is, he played on the road previous, right? Game 4, he was his toe in the water.
Mm-hmm.
So that's
Game 3,
regardless, in Edmonton.
No, Game 4.
It was Game 4. Okay. So I think he's probably in a better position to succeed now. But I think some fresh legs for Ian Cole might be the best way.
Before we get on to some of the Oilers matters at hand, tell you about the We Have an Army t-shirts. Nation Gear is gearing you up for the playoff run. Rep your favorite team. Shop the exclusive We Have an Army playoff tee and more at nationgear.ca. Coach Knobloch on the Edmonton side said they have options. They have good players not playing. We can definitely insert some new life and new legs. You have good players not playing. Okay. Sam Carrick racing to the rescue here. Troy Stetcher, Troy from Richmond. Is Adam Henrique ready to go here at some point? You have to think back against the wall. Henrique is.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of people grumbling about the acquisition cost of Henrique, Carrick, Stetcher that Ken Holland, the Edmonton GM, paid, and more on Kenny here, Vernon's Kenny Holland, later in the show with Frank Seravalli, for really two guys who are serving as healthy scratch depth players and one guy who has been hurt and hasn't provided much of a.
The 2020 hindsight is terrible for the Oilers right now because you wouldn't pull off any of those deals. I bet you Carrick does.
No. They gave up a first-round pick, right?
Yeah. I think Carrick comes back in the lineup for sure.
But that's if Henry can't go, or you think regardless?
I think they're going to have to make change for the sake of change here. For
really,
yeah.
Okay.
They know they're going to get a hungry player there, and they're going to get fresh legs. And the Oilers looked a little bit tired, and they looked a little, not hungry. Whatever they look full, satiated.
And of course, the bigger game afoot here is where they are in their team cycle. You take a look at their cap-friendly page. They're without first, third, and fourth round picks this year. They're without second, fourth, and fifth round picks next year.
Yeah.
This is, plus there's some conditional picks there as well. This is a team that has spent future assets to see if they can win now.
And, they can't afford to make a misstep here in the next 2 games because the Draisaitl contract is of chief concern for them. This was a cup or bust year for them. And you can say, well, their moves at the trade deadline certainly don't tell you that. They didn't exactly bring in guys to put them over the top, and they didn't. And they paid a pretty price, as we just said, for guys that don't do that. But it is in their cycle. They need to get to the Stanley Cup final, and that's why I say, Rick Tocchet has got to get the Canucks ready because I think the players, certainly management, knows where they stand right now, and the Oilers will throw everything they can at them. All the more reason to play on your front foot again and make them work for every chance. Do not park that bus.
As mentioned, first time this postseason, the Oilers did not have a power play goal, and need to tackle this too, because in another brilliant stroke from Rick Tocchet, he waited till the Nashville series was over to talk to the National Hockey League and the Department of Officiating about diving. We saw Philip Forsberg a couple times in the Nashville series go down very easily, looking to draw a penalty. And why it was brilliant is because, everybody bitches and complains in the midst of a series. It's not uncommon in the least. The owner calls Gary or Bill and screams bloody murder. The president or GM calls someone, screams, maybe Colin Campbell screams bloody murder. Coach calls George Peros and player safety screams. So you have, and then of course the players on the ice are whining to the officials assigned to that game. So you have this critical mass of people bitching about the officiating, and Tocchet says, "No, I'm going to be different."
TV did a good job of covering that. And
I'm
covering
going
the
to get my
restraint
message out, yes, at a irregular time when I probably will get more attention and more sympathy. And he's also done a masterful job working the referees in the series, because Rick Tocchet on the bench looks some pissed off with the officiating. Rick Tocchet behind the podium has been very complimentary. He is not giving them the territory for that FU call, because we heard what you said about our performance in the post.
I love him on the bench because he does this. He's that's a blah blah blah. He gets really angry, and then he okay, and then he gets angry at first, and then he and he's like, but it's okay.
Even to the point where he called Adam Foote off last night.
That's right.
Adam Foote is trying to get at the official, and Rick's like, no, we're going to be a one-voice team here with the officials. I'm going to do the talking.
Oh, because officials
because
hate
it's
it
got to
when
be calculated.
They hate the officials. Hate it when the assistants are going
they hate
to.
It when the swarm is. Does soccer not have a swarming rule now? You're not allowed to swarm the referee. So, like I said, he gets my vote for Conn Smythe. The way he's just manipulating every part of the Canucks team, the tactics, the gamesmanship, and the messaging, the leveraging. Because, as we know, like the end of the first period last night.
But both sides do have an opportunity to bitch, though.
The end of the first period last night. Tyler Myers.
The stick, holding the stick.
Right. So it's a holding the stick penalty.
Doesn't get called.
But if Myers doesn't punch, who was it? Was it Fogle?
Janmark.
Well, Janmark. If Myers doesn't punch Janmark and get the roughing call, guess who's getting a power play early in period 2?
Yeah.
The Canucks, right? Because the official is going to retire to the locker room, and they're going to go, we missed that. It's a hole in a stick. And you're getting the makeup call. That's how this league works now.
The culture they created.
Yeah, it's absolutely the culture that has been created. Score management, game management, and makeup calls. That's how they roll.
I don't know how they missed the call, though.
I don't know either.
Like, that one is plain
and,
as
of
day.
course, take things personally and exact grudges. So this is the environment you're in. And this is why I think Tocchet has weighted the waters expertly, adeptly, and adroitly. He understands we're not going to change the infrastructure of all this. So we have to do our best within the framework of what we're dealing with here. And I didn't think it was a particularly well officiated game last night. In fact, you can argue there's 3 of the 5 games so far have not been particularly well officiated.
But worse than that, they've put question marks in everybody's heads about what is what. And that's the last thing that officials want in a series. And that's the last thing the league wants. You want to be, and maybe this is an argument to have officials, maybe just 2 sets of officials work a given series, because
I was just going to say, Blake,
you want to get a feel. Oh, it's so-and-so tonight. We know how he calls this. It's been a coin toss. And this goes back to the accountability too. Like, why can't somebody talk to the ref after and say, okay, inconsequential, but again, just so we know.
Yeah.
Why the charging call against Pettersson? Just give me an explanation. Get me inside your head so we know.
More on that in a second, and I don't want to go too deeply onto that because it's a moot point at the end of the day.
But it creates the culture of the game. It creates the environment. You have to know what rules you're playing with here. And if they're making them up or twisting them, You have to know that.
On standards, why wouldn't just the same crew ref the entire series? Is that because if you go long enough, somebody's going to be upset? Because if you had the same crew the entire series, then they would know best what the standard is that they're going to call on things like cross-checking, right?
I think the worry there is that if you get too embedded in the series to some degree, and you start to keep subconscious scores in your head about, oh, I've already called 4 penalties on this guy in the series, I'm not going to call another one on it. So you sort of want fresh eyes.
Okay.
But as a result, as I said, I think the environment changes every single game, and that causes a lot of headaches and question marks. You okay there?
Sorry.
Oh,
My computer.
your computer screwed up. All
My
right.
computer's about to run dead here, so I have to fix on the fly. Otherwise,
It's a long first segment.
We're not going to get the segment in.
We have to get you through to the finish line
You
here.
get the producer to come help.
Grady
you
is
there,
going to be
Matt.
very upset. No, it's still not charging, actually, Grady. So we may be hooped here. Anyways,
Oh.
a lot of Canucks fans think Connor McDavid dived on that Dakota Joshua penalty.
Yep.
So, and if in fact he is hurt, and we know Draisaitl's playing through a lower back.
I didn't love the picker dive either, to be honest.
On Suter.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if
He sold it.
If that's going to be a thing, Tocchet has been in their ears on this proactively, preemptively at the beginning of the series. Something to watch for. I wouldn't be surprised if Rick before the game reminds the officials, hey, just so you know, I talked with Cole. I talked with everybody before the series. We've had some diving against the Predators, and
Please keep an eye out for X.
be a real shame if this series gets, and there was an embellishment call last night. So, lastly, Dan Murphy on this and on the Abbotsford Canucks side of the ledger, Dan Murphy reporting that Jeremy Colton received a 2-year contract offer from the Canucks, which he turned down, and said he doesn't believe the door is closed on negotiations. Dollywall reported he was fired, so quite a spectrum there.
Yeah.
As we talked about yesterday, it's very possible that was a 2-year contract offer not to be head coach of the HL team. The contract expiring. Oh, well, we'll offer you a contract for this, but not for that. So don't know all the details there. But that's interesting because I think a lot of people, and there's certainly a lot of praise given to Jeremy Colton, particularly out of the mouths of this management team at different times.
We talked about Trent Cull a lot more back in the day.
Yeah.
When he was, is he really doing what? I don't think the same claim has been made of Cull.
No. Okay, Blake. Time to review how you did with the Daily Face-Off Playoff Parlay Challenge. We have been telling you about this for weeks. Each game day, you answer a number of questions. The daily winners snag gift cards. The round winners pocket straight cash. Games.dailyfaceoff.com.
6 of 8 yesterday.
6 of 8.
Not
Very
bad.
good. Congratulations.
6 of 8.
We have a sharp in here.
That's my high water mark so far.
Mm-hmm. What did you win on?
I don't remember.
Oh, okay.
6 of 8.
So what do you got tonight? You got Florida, Boston.
Yeah, we got 2 games back on the schedule
Dallas, Colorado.
here. Yeah. So, needless to say, I'm sort of picking favorites. I do think that we get some goals in the Florida-Boston series. I think Dallas stomps on Colorado. I think Boston's able to pull it out. I'm taking Boston.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
You said you were picking favorites. Florida's at home. And you're going Boston.
I've got
Boston.
I've got Pasternak and Kachuk scoring. So the Stars are coming out to play. I see some fireworks in the Bruins-Panthers game. I think the Stars just end Colorado, although I've got McKinnon getting on the board. So we'll see. It's so easy, folks. Sign yourself up. It's fun and good bragging rights. Get your you and your pals and see who's best.
At very least, prevent this guy from being the top of the leaderboard tomorrow.
Yeah, stick it to the pro. All you
Stick it to
Joes
the
out there,
pros.
you're tired of these guys coming on YouTube and your podcast. They thinking they know more about sports and betting than you. This is your time to
I can
shine.
assure you he is not a sharp.
Yeah, that's true.
I've been around him for 13 years.
You need
There's
to
no
start tracking your
yeah.
record.
Been with him in Vegas. He doesn't win there either.
Maybe on the blackjack table, certainly not in the book.
Right.
Blind squirrel fund into that.
Let's get to today's menu. It is brought to you by Greta, and we will be once again joining all our friends at Greta on Saturday. Come hang out, watch some hockey with us. We got a charitable partner in Day One Dad's Impact Foundation. We'll raise some money for them. Give you a free gamer card. It's good for 3 hours of gameplay at the fabulous arcade at Greta. We'll have a first goal celebration, as we always do. So come on down, say hello. You can get a photo with, well, not Blake. He's down in Seattle calling the Whitecaps game, but
You can just stick around. You can spend the entire
photo with
evening at
Grady.
Greta. Should be a lot of fun.
So come on down to Greta, 50 West Cordova, and enjoy what could be, let's face it, the biggest night of hockey in this town in 13 years, right?
That's the thing. You want to be somewhere special. The
Right.
living room is good
Enjoy
for
it with
games
the
1
crowd.
and 2.
This is one you want to enjoy with the crowd, just in
Yes.
case they make their way through
That's right.
to the next round of the postseason. We got Frank coming up, Grady. Is that right? Or Jeff?
See, Frank.
We got Seravalli coming up on Demko, on Mikheyev, on the Edmonton changes, on Zadorov.
On him being a Oilers homer, apparently, but now
right.
he's put his Canucks hat on.
Ken Holland. There's a rumor about Vernon's Ken Holland, the Oilers GM, and where he might be headed after this season, which could be as soon as Saturday.
I'm sure their
Or the Liz.
organization appreciates all that coming out right now.
We'll talk to J-Pat as well about everything in Game 5 and looking forward to Game 6. But it's time now for our Bet365 Bets of the Day. This segment brought to you by Bet365, proud partner of Sekeres Price. So here I'm going very, very simple here, Blake.
Yep.
Canucks on the money line, paying 165 to win Game 6. And as we've just talked about, there's a huge goalie decision. Would you go Skinner? Or would you go Pickard if you're in Knobloch's shoes?
I think you go to Pickard. It's proof of concept right now. I understand.
Right.
I understand the logic of people saying go back to Skinner. He's got the higher end.
Yep.
But he hasn't proven that in over a number of games. He's not proven that.
No.
And Pickard hasn't played bad.
No. There's
No.
been one goal in each Pickard start that he wants back. The Giuseppe goal certainly last night.
I know
the Garland.
He's kept you in it though.
Sorry, Garland was on Skinner. But exactly, he's kept you in it. In terms of the reasons why you have lost the games, he's down the queue.
Yeah.
So I would go Pickard on a short leash if I'm Knobloch. But anyways, you got the goalie decision. You've got stars who are either fatigued or injured or ineffective, but have to find their game.
Or diving.
You've got a nervous building that we talked about. It's going to be tense. The pressure is clearly on your team. So wounded animal, time to put him away. Canucks paying plus 165 just to win straight up on the money line.
Dogs are barking. Ho, ho.
Really? Okay.
I'm actually plus 170 last night, so I lost a little bit of price there.
I'm going to get a little bit more creative here. The team scoring first to win the game, yes or no? I mean, it's been
not
out the-
exactly been a formula now, has it?
Right. So I'm going to take no. I get plus 160. No matter who it is.
Plus 160 is pretty good.
It's pretty good.
I like that.
Yeah.
Open an account with Bet365 today. Bet on a huge range of markets. So whatever the sport, whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Open that account. Use code VANBONUS altogether. All one word. Frank Seravalli coming up next.
The Vancouver Canadians are back at the net. Catch fireworks, giveaways, and Friday nooners all spring and summer long. Get your tickets at CanadiansBaseball.com. Hey, you. No, not you. You. Are you an owner-operator? Do you have a fleet of trucks or cars? Well, CalPro Plus might be the dedicated tire program just for you.
Free program includes exclusive deals and savings, price match guarantee, flexible financing, and preferred pricing on everything you drive.
Also, you get a dedicated member support line. That means that you can get questions answered. Also, they'll source and recommend the right tire for you, your application, and your budget.
Cal Tire's network of 260 plus stores are here to help so you can focus on the road ahead. Sign up for free at calproplus.com.
In a season like this, you never want to miss a single second of what's happening on the ice, and you want to be around your fellow fans, right? Well, Greta Bar YVR at 50 West Cordova, the perfect spot to do so. Hey, if you've got tickets, a great place to pre and post. They've got drink specials every single day. And if you don't have tickets, well, stick around and soak up the atmosphere with all your fellow fans, play all the great video games and air hockey, great air hockey set up as well at Greta Bar YVR. We'll see you there, 50 West Cordova.
Joined now by NHL Insider from the Frankly Speaking podcast and the Daily Faceoff, Mr. Frank Seravalli in the studio before he heads to Edmonton for Game 6. How you doing?
I'm good.
Mm-hmm.
Not as good as Vancouver today.
No.
Can you, I know that this sounds funny and or 18 months ago insanely far-fetched, but walking out of the arena last night, through the viaducts, stopped in park, any tap room around the city, just chants of JT Miller.
Yeah.
I mean, think about how insane that would have been when, the Canucks were flirting with Pittsburgh and trading him.
Yep.
When I couldn't do this show without there being some talk about the anvil that the Canucks were carrying around in JT Miller and a contract that hadn't even kicked in yet.
Yeah, it was controversial at the time. And all because of the guy that eventually got his contract, whom everybody is wincing at. Although Pettersson was better last night. To be sure.
Isn't the real decision, didn't it come down to Miller or Horvat?
Correct.
And it was, then to compound it, it was Horvat with 26 goals by December 25th.
Yeah.
At a time when Miller's production slid and everyone's like, oh my God, did we make the wrong choice? How's that feel now?
Yeah.
They made the right call. It's clear they made the right call.
And at a decent price, too, for now. I mean,
this is a 99-point scorer. This is, I did the math on this. Since JT Miller joined the Vancouver Canucks, 11th in league scoring, 402 points, 22 more than Sidney Crosby. Maybe he's just Mr. Misunderstood.
Well, he's not anymore.
In fairness, he's changed a lot, Frank.
Yeah, not anymore.
On the ice and off the ice here, and has talked about it.
He grew up a lot.
Yeah, he sure did.
And guess what? Rick Tocchet deserves a lot of that.
Oh, for sure.
Compliments of that, because he was the Phil Kessel whisperer in Pittsburgh. And we all said the day he took the job, if he could just find a way to harness the energy and the raging competitive fire that burns in JT Miller, like, this guy has a live edge, and to his own admission has been a pain in the ass and has been at times to his teammates just absolutely relentless. But if you can channel that get a game like last night.
But look at those two post-game comments from one game to the next. The accountability after game number 4.
The text message to Tocchet.
The text message to Tocchet. And then what you heard last night after the game. I mean, that's just a guy saying, I'm going to clean my stuff up and be better. And he was.
It's, again, perspective and time. I'm not sure that any of those players, and I talked to Tyler Myers about this after the game, I'm not sure that any of those players that have waded through the swamp of negativity and toxic energy that had circulated through this organization the last number of years, even in their wildest dreams, could have squinted hard enough and seen the Canucks knock off the Oilers to take a 3-2 series lead in which they've never trailed in the series, have Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl on the ropes, and of all people, JT Miller his name is echoing through the building, and they're trying to prop up Elias Pettersson.
Yep. What'd you make of the game?
I thought it was by far the Canucks' best effort of the postseason. I thought that game made me a believer. And I know that's going to sound funny to say for someone that picked the Canucks in round 1, But I've been waiting through some of these circus-like wins and wins that, frankly, the Canucks never really had any business winning. Some of them.
You're not alone.
No, fair.
I would say that one, full marks. They earned every ounce of that. They flipped the script, and they were the team whose stars outworked Edmonton stars. They were the team that took the adjustments and tweaks in this chess match that Rick Tocchet and Chris Knobloch have been playing, and they were the ones that implemented all of them. To be the aggressor as opposed to the team that sits back, that's worth its weight in gold. But there's a fine line.
So when you say believer, you mean what?
I mean, this is a team that they obviously had something special in the belief that they had, the ability to continue to come back. But I think for the longest time in this series, and my thought process to this point has been, and this may still end up being true, the Oilers' ceiling is a lot higher than Vancouver's. But when you're able to assert your will, like the way that they did in Game 5, that's really powerful and can change the dynamic of that. And look, they've got Edmonton on the ropes, and this is probably an Edmonton team that has heard a lot of the same things that we've all been talking about for the last number of months. This Vancouver team can't win. They're an inferior team on paper. You have to learn how to win. You don't just, go on a deep run in the playoffs in your first crack at it. And that's kind of exactly what they're doing.
Yeah, after watching,
Blake said it last night in our post game, and we heard this a lot going into the series. Think Vancouver can win the series, but don't think Vancouver can win the cup. And they play like that. Who knows?
Changed it a little bit.
They're going to have a puncher's chance if they play like that.
Yeah, for sure.
I want to take you on with that question, the quote about the ceiling. They have by far the two best players in the series. Of that, there's no doubt. I mean, this Edmonton defense and goaltending, I mean, they can score defensively, but actually defending defensively, I don't see how they win a cup with that defense and goaltending. And to me, the Vancouver's far superior on those two fronts.
How? I mean, just look at the numbers. Entering Game 5, the Oilers have given up the fewest high danger chances, the fewest scoring chances, and the fewest expected goals against of any team in the entire playoffs. Of the 10 that were remaining heading into Thursday night, or I guess 9 after the Hurricanes were gone.
I just see the Canucks cycle, and that soft spot on the circle is seemingly always available. Besser and Garland have been there all series long.
You think the Canucks have created enough inside in the slot this series to actually make that?
No, but I think that's user error. That space is there.
That's just bad goaltending. That's not. Look, even consider.
That's what he said, though.
Yeah, defense and goaltending. Yeah.
Well, the goaltending's a little bit different, I think, than the defense. I think as a team, they've actually defended exceptionally well. Consider. And this is kind of the misnomer that's existed around the Oilers, I believe, is consider, even just Game 4, okay? The Canucks have another one of those comebacks and almost pulled a game out of their ass that they had no business winning. Tie it up with 1:41 to go. Think about the 2 goals that went in. Garland from distance with a Joshua screen in front, and then another one off of a shin pad from the side. No one is looking at those saying, oh, those are quality chances that the Canucks generated. The Canucks didn't have anything going in that entire area of the ice, which is why when you see Pettersson get involved in the mix in Game 5 and you see a lot of these other guys find a way to create, that was the difference. But to say that Edmonton can't defend, I think if they lose this series, it's because Stuart Skinner couldn't stop a puck.
I think the Canuck forward lines have just been watered. They try in an effort to create depth. I think we're talking watered down the top 9.
Ironically enough, the fourth line ends up being maybe your best line.
Ironically, totally. But I just think with any semblance of chemistry, I think guys like Cody Ceci can be infiltrated with regularity.
Okay, but you're picking
Kulak,
the worst.
Dude,
Kulak has been maybe their best defenseman the last 3 games. He's been unbelievable. So I get what you're saying
Not
about
Ekholm?
CC, but if you want to pick at
Mhm.
if you want to pick at any team's sixth defenseman, where he is right now, the sixth of six,
Yeah.
and probably shouldn't be in the lineup.
Desharnais, come on.
I've thought
I think you're vastly underestimating the Oilers and how they've defended. That's all I'll say. I'll leave it right at that.
Okay.
And if you
Well-
want to pick at something about Edmonton, and I agree. Look, I think from a holistic point of view, I would say that almost universally, everyone watching this series says whatever team comes out of it is going to have their lunch handed to them next round.
Potentially, yeah.
Dallas a hell of a team, and Colorado's pretty good as well. And of course have cup pedigree from a couple of years ago.
Mhm.
Since we're talking about Edmonton's goal prevention, who do you anticipate starts Game 6?
I would go back to Stuart Skinner. I know that's not a popular decision, but again, if we're going to talk about ceiling, Stuart Skinner's ceiling is way above Cal Pickard's.
Mhm.
And Pickard has played fine. There is nothing to say for a guy that's a 32-year-old journeyman that stepped in to these last two games, not just making his first career Stanley Cup playoff start, but playing back-to-back games for the first time all season long.
Two bad goals, one bad goal per game, but really he hasn't been chief amongst the reasons they lost.
But I think if the Oilers are going to get to a spot, and again, we're thinking further down the line and big picture view, and this only has to be about who gives you the best chance to win one game, they're going to have to go back to Skinner at some point if they have any prayer of competing in the next round. So it might be the time now to rip that Band-Aid off and go back to it.
Speaking of goalies, Thatcher Demko, what's the latest there?
Thatcher Demko, there seemed to be some kind of speculation that was wafting on Thursday because he wasn't out there for the morning skate. Did this guy have a setback? What's going on? I'm told that is not the case. Everything is very positive. He has taken shots 4 consecutive days in a row. Friday, today, the 17th, would be the 5th day in a row. I wouldn't be surprised at all to see him at the team's morning skate on the ice at Rogers Place in Edmonton on Saturday. I think Saturday's not happening. He's still got some more work to do. But if there is a Game 7, there's a very real possibility we see Thatcher Demko.
Would that be the wrong choice?
Not in my mind.
If it's a Game 7, you're coming off a loss. I mean,
not for me. And Shelovs has been good. Like, again, just like Pickard, there's nothing to really say, hey, there's a reason why you're yanking him. It's purely about pedigree and the best chance to win one game.
Mm-hmm.
And if you can take a Vezina Trophy finalist, one of the 3 or 5 best goalies in the league, and you're telling me that he can't injure himself any further and he's good to go, I know that he's only played 3 times in the last 2 months, it feels like. But I'm putting Thatcher Demko in the net.
Yep. Ilya Mikheyev, apparently it wasn't a purely coach's decision that there might be a health matter there. What do you know?
I saw the report from Murph that he's banged up. My thought process would be Ilya Mikheyev is where scoring chances have gone to die these playoffs, and he just looks totally lost. That if there was a health concern, it actually should have been a coach's decision. But the point being, because he was a participant in morning skate, he obviously could have played had there, you know, whatever minor, the situation was. The coach's decision was the appropriate decision. And by the way, I know we gave him some flowers already, but that coaching staff and the adjustments that they've made in this chess match game to game, you think back to Game 2 and the way that the Oilers absolutely fed the Canucks in the third period. Well, remember in Game 3 when the Oilers had the puck again forever and they didn't really generate much because Vancouver was able to kill more plays. Every time they've found a way to make an adjustment to put this team in the best position to win.
It was a Jack Adams performance during the season. It's been a Conn Smythe performance in the postseason for Rick Tocchet and his staff.
Everything he's touched has gone to goal.
Yeah, quite right. Quite right. And incidentally, the underlings are pretty kind to Mikheyev. It's the damnedest thing when you're looking at.
See, that's what makes your head explode.
No,
because
exactly.
You watch him and he has zero confidence, and he looks like someone that anytime he even gets the puck and it's in close, it's like he's aiming
Forget about
for
it.
the chest.
Well, it's like he has a broken
Forget about
wrist. It's like he can't get any velocity on the shot or raise it above the goaltender. But at the same time, I think he's a neutral player. Like, I don't think he causes bad things either. So
I didn't feel like he was hurting them a whole lot. But needless to say,
Hoglander, Podkolzin, all those guys were way better last night than Mikheyev has
think
been at
so.
any point.
Yep. I know you've got to run here so quickly. How much money is Nikita Zadorov making himself this postseason?
It's hard to answer that question because if he is getting paid, and by the way, like he thinks he's getting somewhere in the 6x6 range. If that's the case, there's some serious recency bias to this. And that's generally what happens when it comes to the free agent market.
Yeah.
That is how life works. He's been a force. He's been incredibly impressive, but he's also scored goals that, if we're all being totally honest, probably had no business going in at times. Nonetheless, they have, and the moments have been magical. And he's lifted this team at times when they've desperately needed it and provided the edge that's required to win in the playoffs. So I think he's been a fantastic fit. I'd have real reservations about giving him that kind of AAV. I guess I'm not as concerned about the term, because look at someone like Myers and how well, the term of his deal aged. I mean, again, another guy where steps into this market and everyone, he's being picked apart from the day he arrived. And now Tyler Myers, everyone's like, oh, we got to re-sign this guy.
Well, it's the best hockey he's ever played, though, in his
Absolutely.
6th year. So you're right, it did age, but the middle part was rather mucky.
But the point is with Zadorov, if he's the same age as when Myers signed his deal,
Yeah.
also a big guy, if you sign him to a 6-year deal, maybe at 34, he's just fine.
Yep, it's possible.
But I'd want to really drive the AAV down if you're going to do that. And I think at that point, it's going to come down to total dollars. And are the Canucks going to have the best offer?
Lastly, Frank, earlier in the year, somebody in the know had mentioned to us that Vernon's Ken Holland, general manager of the Edmonton Oilers, was on the final year of his contract, was going to play it out, that both sides sort of understood that this would be it and that Kenny would retire to Predator Ridge as a Hockey Hall of Famer, and that's that. Now I read people connecting them to Columbus. What do you know about the Oilers GM and where he might wind up after the year?
I don't think it's top of mind for him right now, but I
say the least.
I do think that there's a very small percentage and likelihood that Ken Holland is back with the Oilers next season. And I don't mean back, like he could be some kind of advisor, I guess, but he's not going to be the GM of this team moving forward.
Mm-hmm.
Who that is, I think, is another giant question for the offseason. But what's surprising to me about Columbus is this was first sort of dripped out there in February at the All-Star break. And the surprising part about the Blue Jackets and the way that this is all unfolded is we haven't heard any names linked to them.
That's it. I mentioned that to Blake the other day. I'm like, Columbus is still looking for a GM. Haven't heard
Usually at
anything
this
about
point,
that.
guys are
Right.
dying to get their name connected to it.
Right.
And have been interviewed and have gone through the process. I've called a couple people that have been rumored to be on the list, and almost universally, they've all said, I haven't heard from Columbus at all.
Mm-hmm.
And so my thought process is, if that is the case, then Columbus must have their guy.
Right.
And they're just waiting for the playoffs to end. If not, we're at May 17th. The NHL draft is 6 weeks away. Not to mention all the other trading you could do between now and then. You would think that a team that has known for months that they have a vacancy, that they would be further down the track than this.
Yeah.
But
if they hire the new guy, and they have to,
but they have a president. This is the part I can't understand. They have a president in John Davidson. So would, like, people saying, oh, Ken Holland will be the president of hockey ops. Okay. But then you still have to hire a GM. And where's JD going?
Right. And do you change the coach and become like the 50th vacancy of the season?
I think whoever's going in has to change the coach.
I agree.
I think Pascal Vincent, he appeared to be way over his.
And he was a placeholder.
Yeah. And he's not meshing with the young players.
No.
Like, whoever's going in there has to have patience and let the young players grow, like Ken Johnson, for example.
You can't be
All right.
on day 16 of your first year as a head coach ever in the NHL and saying, quote, "This is getting really old."
I said that about working with Matt, but
Yeah.
But that's deserved at least.
And Frank knows a thing or two about old. Frank Seravalli, everybody, NHL Insider. Enjoy Edmonton, buddy.
The Vancouver Canadians are back at the net. Catch fireworks, giveaways, and Friday nooners all spring and summer long. Get your tickets at CanadiansBaseball.com.
Northlands Golf Course. Download the free app and book tee times with a touch of your thumb. And while you're on course, open the app for hole-by-hole GPS and track your score. 6 to 90-day reservations. Jump the queue. Lock in your date for $10 per player booking fee. Limited daily availability. Check it all out. GolfNorthlands.com. We've all heard of the overdose crisis, also known as the toxic drug crisis.
But did you know that it affects men disproportionately?
Last year, 78% of people dying here in BC were men, and the majority were 30 to 59 years old.
It's not easy to struggle with addiction, and the stigma around it can make it harder for people to reach out for help.
There is help and support. Every journey is different, and the thing that helps one person, it might not be the same for everyone.
So when someone does reach out, be compassionate and have open, non-judgmental conversations.
We here at Sekeres Price want to be part of the solution.
If you or someone you care about is struggling, you can find supports and services near you at helpstartshere.gov.bc.ca. And you can also watch powerful real-life stories of recovery on Help Starts Here website.
Our next guest is brought to you by the Arnold Palmer designed Whistler Golf Club. Now open for the 2024 season and playing to rave reviews early. Tee times for anytime during the 2024 season can be booked right now online. And if you have a group of 12 or more, you, the group organizer, plays for free. For more information or to book online, visit whistlergolf.com. I'm afraid Jeff Paterson is going to have to wait a little while longer before he gets into the full swing of things on the golf course because, he's got some hockey to cover and maybe we'll have a couple more weeks of hockey to cover at minimum. Should the Canucks win Saturday or Monday if necessary, our Canucks reporter, the host of Rink Wide Vancouver, joins us after a thrilling Game 5 victory for the home team. Jeff, how are you? What do you make of the game last night?
Well, I was thinking that when I came on with you guys after the stirring Game 1 comeback, and we talked about the moments that the Canucks have provided their fan base already in these playoffs. And since then, there's been an overtime game, and now there's been 2 final minute, basically buzzer beaters in the last 2 games of the series, and last night's went the Canucks' way. So it just on a nightly basis, the theater, the drama has been off the charts good. That much better when the home team, if it's the Canucks and Canuck fans, that much better when they come out on top. And so, look, to be able to push the Oilers to the brink of elimination now, to do it the way that they did, the way they took that game over in the second period, the ice was tilted. The Canucks were playing downhill, but full credit to them. Rick Tocchet challenged them. Guys responded. We're getting into high-stakes situations, and that can be a risky proposition for a head coach to basically throw it back at his players, but the guys that were passengers, I think they recognized it and they responded, and the changes that the coach made, those worked out. He's pretty much had the Midas touch all season long, and again, pushed all the right buttons. It took 59 minutes and change, but they got the result they needed to get this thing to a 3-2 series lead.
Nobody ever expects to be right when they make their pre-series prognostications. But everybody was saying this is going to be a tight series. It's going to go 7 games, yada, yada. Like when you say that, generally you expect a 5-2 win from somebody along the way. To get these 1-goal games, I'm just blown away at the way this series has unrolled. Like it has been high drama. Maybe not the best hockey games every single night, but my goodness, the end drama and the flair for the dramatic. I mean, it's just fabulous theater, and I think that Canucks fans and Oiler fans are getting quite a treat. And in the case of Canucks fans, Jeff, to wait this long and then to get a series like this, I mean, congratulations, Canuck fans.
The empty net goal is extinct.
Right.
I'm not sure what's happened here now. Part of it's the goals are coming so late, the game winners, but the Game 3 win in Edmonton, the Canucks were up 4-2, and Evan Bouchard scored to make it a backdoor 1-goal game, but still it ends as a 1-goal game. And that's 9 straight games now that have been decided by a single goal. And the margins are that tight. But at the outset of the series, I think there were a lot of people, and you looked at that ESPN prediction group, people thought the Canucks were going to have to hang on for dear life and everything was going to have to go right, in the words of Jim Rutherford at the outset of the season. And yet it has been back and forth. There have been some stretches. Obviously, in game 1, the Oilers got out in front, and the Canucks, full credit to them for clawing all the way back. But really, since then, games have been ridiculously and remarkably tight, and that was the case again on Thursday night at Rogers Arena. So the Canucks they've shown it all season long. When they're down, they're not afraid. In tight games, they're comfortable. Rick Tocchet has always pleaded with his group to be comfortable in uncomfortable situations. And I think they're showing that they are absolutely fine with games being tied into the third period, or even if they're trailing, they have this belief that they can come back. And they did well to tie the game at 1, and then boom, it's 2-1 right away. That could have been pretty deflating, but no, they just cranked up the volume and the temperature in that second period and absolutely went to work. And in some ways, we're unlucky to finish the second period in a 2-2 tie because they generated all the chances in that middle frame.
Blake can speak for himself. I picked the Canucks in 5, and frankly, I'm a little disappointed and surprised it's going to take them at least 6. Jeff, it's our poll question today. How do you see the series ending? Who and in how many games?
I give them every opportunity to go into Edmonton and just punch the Oilers right in the nose. They did it in game 3. They won all 3 of their games in Nashville. They're not afraid. By this point of the playoffs, big crowds and loud noises, like you're going to get that wherever you go. So it's not any more intimidating going into Rogers Place than it is Rogers Arena. The fact that, a guy like EP40 took a step forward. There's still room to grow, certainly. But if he was one of the passengers, he was pulling on the rope in the right direction last night, and the way that JT Miller has played. I guess I need to see how the Oilers work the matchups at home. Like, they're going to have to find a way to get Connor McDavid away from JT Miller, because give Miller and Carson Soucy and Tyler Myers all the props in the world for the job that they did. The length of those defensemen, keeping McDavid to the outside, off the score sheet. He has 1 point in the last 3 games in this series. It was fair to question some areas of the Oilers game, but I didn't hear anybody questioning Connor McDavid coming into the series. And yet, I don't know about you guys, but I've written a column that's going to be up at Canucks Army here on Friday about, this might be the most important game that Connor McDavid has ever played in the National Hockey League. When you think of the stakes, when you think of Leon Draisaitl's got 1 year left on his contract, if they were to bow out to the Canucks of all teams, what does that do? Legacies are forged in the playoffs. And quite frankly, Connor McDavid's been remarkably quiet aside from game 2 in the series where he was all world. And, I'll give him the credit for that one, but 6 points in the series, 4 of them came in game 2, and he has just 2 points in the other 4 games. So the Canucks have done a nice job of painting the Oilers into a corner. And I would say they have put all the pressure squarely at the feet of Connor McDavid.
Jeff, we read this stat in the opening block from Paul Paduti. Last night, the Canucks limited McDavid to a 16.5% expected goal share at 5-on-5 per natural stat trick. His lowest in 390 games. You have to go back to a November game in 2019 at Pittsburgh pre-COVID.
Wow.
To find a lower share of expected goals from Connor McDavid.
Now, he hit a crossbar on a first period power play. Game of inches, didn't go his way. But outside of a crossbar early in the hockey game, that is as quiet as I have seen him. And he was on the ice for the 2-2 goal. And then ultimately, he was the closest player. JT Miller on the game winner. And Miller got the bounce, and Connor McDavid was left to wonder, what had gone on and what had gone wrong. And the Canucks said they wanted to make him defend it. I mean, that's the best way to keep the best offensive players in the world at bay, is to make them defend. They don't like to defend. Tires them out. Those are tough shifts.
Is he tired? Is he tired, do you think? Because his speed doesn't look as blinding.
That, he's not 100%. I mean, did the Soucy cross-check or the Zadorov cross-check, does that play into it? But he's playing, and he's playing a lot. I mean, is he playing through something? We don't know. Whatever the case, he has not had the impact. Draisaitl's had a point in every game. Draisaitl has looked unstoppable at times in this series. And again, outside of game 2, you just can't say that about Connor McDavid.
How about the Phil Giuseppe story, Jeff?
Yeah. He was having some fun with it post game. Players were having fun with it. Why not? What a 72 hours to have to leave the hockey club in Edmonton and come back to Vancouver. And, he's been honest and upfront about it being a difficult pregnancy. So, just trying to play playoff hockey with sort of that weight on your mind. And, I hadn't played particularly well. So when he came out of the lineup, it didn't feel like a massive loss, but injecting him with the new dad energy, and it's a second child, but he's completed the set. They already had a daughter. Now he's got a son, and he looked like he had been shot out of a cannon. And, it took me back to training camp when he made this team. And, at the time he made the team in the top 6, and nobody really liked that outside of Phil himself, probably. But we said at the time, like, this isn't ideal if Phil Giuseppe's in your top 6, but credit to him. He forced the club's hand because his training camp, his preseason was that strong. So it's in there. It's in there. And Rick Tocchet's always liked and admired his wall work and the board battles. And, the guy plays the right way in the eyes of the head coach. It's just that he's fallen lower in the lineup. There hasn't been much offense from him, but yeah, that was a heck of a shift to get in on the forecheck against the Oilers' top defensive pair. Give Nils Oman some credit as well. And Phil Giuseppe with the spinning backhand. Didn't have that on my bingo card, but hey, whatever it takes at this time of the year. And then moments later, he had the off the rush when he had tied the game. Like, he would have blown the roof off Rogers Arena if Phil the Thrill had come through with 2 goals, that close together in that second period.
Did you ask him how long the new baby aura lasts? Like, does he have a couple more of those games in him? Just curious.
I don't know. Get out on the road here, maybe get a good night's sleep. The quiet, peace and quiet of a hotel room, and maybe he'll be ready to go. But I can't imagine that Rick Tocchet's going to make any lineup changes based on what we saw. Even Vasily Podkolzin in his limited moments in his Stanley Cup playoff debut did what he tried, tried to be physical. Again, hound the puck, finish check, separate guys, the things that the Canucks had been lacking at other times earlier in this series. So it was nice to see the lower in the lineup guys respond. It was nice to see the higher in the lineup guys obviously come through. The changes for Rick Tocchet. Again, EP40 looked engaged. Elias Lindholm's just had a really impressive playoff run, and that continued again last night. So credit to everybody. That was a full team effort for the Vancouver Canucks, and that's what it's going to take again here, whether it's Game 6 or if they're forced to bring it back to Vancouver for Game 7 on Monday night.
Part of that team effort was the PK, because everybody contributes on the PK, and I had just sort of written in pen, power play goals every game for the Edmonton Oilers. Like, it was a fait accompli.
1 per game, and try and manage it around that. Right?
Yeah, like it was going to happen. It didn't happen. It didn't happen last night.
Right. And on top of that, just 3 shots on goal in 7 minutes and 40 seconds of power play time. We've carved the Canucks power play when it's been passive and on the perimeter. But again, I thought the Canucks amped things up a little more aggressive. You have to be so precise in your reads against that power play. And look, Saturday can be a totally different story, and the Oilers power play can take over. But, they got the 3 power plays, the first 3 power plays of the game. And for the Canucks to be able to weather that storm, even after they had given up the early goal to Evander Kane, full credit. And, I've listed off a number of individuals and the role that they've played. Teddy Bluger led the Canucks in shorthanded ice time. So let's make note of the job that Teddy Bluger did. Lindholm, a big part of that. Zadorov, obviously. And getting Carson Soucy back. I mean, they missed him in Game 4. There's no doubt that Noah Juulsen makes the ill-advised read and goes for the big hit. Carson Soucy just, for the most part. Now, look, Carson Soucy also on the second Edmonton goal, he had scored, and I think he smelled blood and the chance to score another one and sort of swooped in there and lost his footing, and Oilers went back the other way. But again, Soucy and Myers in tandem, that pair just being tasked with penalty killing minutes and also trying to match up against Connor McDavid wherever possible. I was glad to hear Rick Tocchet has taken the occasion a couple of times here in the playoffs to single out Tyler Myers. And when you think of where Tyler Myers has been in his run here as a Vancouver Canuck, and it's kind of funny in some ways that the contract is up now, they're not getting paid here based on their contracts in the playoffs. And so at the end of a contract that was never going to be able to be met in terms of value, Tyler Myers playing some of the best hockey of his career. And I'm not sure that I saw that coming into the postseason. But, again, maybe the fact that he hasn't played much playoff hockey here in Vancouver over the years, this is a guy obviously with his size, like built for this kind of hockey. We just haven't had the opportunity to see him perform on this stage, but been really, really impressed. And so is the coach with the play of Tyler Myers.
Tell me what you liked about Elias last night, Jeff.
Just that he dug in, like he looked far more engaged. And, I'll give him the credit, but I also say, okay, like how come it was so difficult? Why did it take the coach calling you out? Why did it take pointed questions at the podium? Why did it take the fan base chanting your name just to get a little more engaged? And, the fact that he was shooting the puck and not all shots make it to the net, but there were, I think, 8 shot attempts again. Like that tells you he's got the puck on his stick in shooting positions in the offensive zone. The reverse hit, crazy penalty, obviously, but the fact that he was willing to go there and, absolutely levels Warren Fogle. For me, it was the engagement. And I think the engagement will lead to bigger and better things in the offensive production, but also the fact that, look, JT Miller scores the winner and Pettersson's foot able to get the puck to the front of the net. The fact that Elias Pettersson's out there in the final minute of regulation, Rick Tocchet, again, believing in him that there is an opportunity, that it's a new night and maybe a chance for him to come through and contribute offensively. And he did. He played a role on what turned into a game-winning goal. And, big goal, obviously, to put the Canucks on the verge here of advancing. So, I think there was areas, the power play just looked a little more ferocious. He was a part of that. So, again, it wasn't a perfect night, but it was night and day compared to what we've seen through most of the playoffs from Elias Pettersson.
Is that the new lotto line? When you need something, do you go Elias, and JT Miller instead of Brock Besser?
Well, it seems crazy to think that Besser would be the odd man out given the playoffs that he's had and his penchant for scoring big goals. But it's so clear that Tocchet trusts Elias Lindholm and just about everything that he has brought to the mix here. Now that he's a lot closer to being fully healthy. So, it's options, I think, is really all it is. But, again, Brock Besser scores big goals for the Canucks, but he's rounded out his game as well. And he's been part of the group that's been out there late in games trying to protect and preserve leads as well. So I'm not sure what went into the decision, but to me, it was notable that Elias Pettersson was out there on a line when essentially, we talk about the strength of this group and 3 centers, the way that they've lined up for much of the year. And then it was just throw a blanket, throw all 3 of them out there and see what happens. And sure enough, against Connor McDavid, they were able to come through in the clutch and give the Canucks the goal that they needed to get out of there with the win last night.
Big goaltending decision here for Chris Knoblauch. Where do you think he'll go? And the other thing, Jeff, is, and we've experienced this here at Rogers Arena in the past, that's going to be a tense building. That's going to be a very tense building. And as we have discussed all series long, the Canucks need to play on the front foot. Boy, if they could get the first goal Saturday and play on the front foot, the totality of pressure and expectation and all of that is going to come heaping down on that Oilers bench.
Yeah, Oilers have opened the scoring in 4 of the 5 games, but that hasn't deterred the Canucks, and the series score indicates that. As for the goaltending decision, you're right. Like, I was thinking about this myself. Like, Calvin Pickard's given them goaltending to win both of the games that he has started here. He got the victory in game 4, and he was one of the Oilers that came to play in game 5. And in that second period, he was spectacular. When you think of the saves that he made to keep the Oilers level at 2-2, and even into the third period, not a lot that he could do on the goals themselves. But this is an Oiler team that was the best team in the National Hockey League after Chris Knoblauch took over. Stuart Skinner had asserted himself as their starter unquestionably. You wonder, in a do-or-die game, one game to, get this back to Vancouver for another do-or-die game, do you put it at the feet of your guy that was your number one goaltender? And I think that is a decision that Chris Knoblauch has to make. But, guys, we also know that Stuart Skinner's got the penchant for giving up that bad one. And to your point, Matt, like, this is an Oiler team now that basically the margin for error has been eliminated. And I'm not sure that they can sustain just a moldy goal from Stuart Skinner early in that hockey game in terms of the energy in the building and the expectations and all that kind of stuff. And so my gut tells me that you're going to see Calvin Pickard get the start. Just keep doing what he's doing, because I think he's given them the goaltending that they need in this tight series. And then it's on their best players. And it starts with McDavid, but Draisaitl, even, like, let's be honest here, Zach Hyman got 2 in the first game.
Oh my gosh. Empty.
He's been pretty quiet as well.
Yep. So, yeah. Like, also, I think Kane has actually made more noise than Hyman of the two wingers. I'm not saying that just because Kane scored, but I mean, honestly, I can't think of many close calls for Hyman outside of the first couple of games. It's been very quiet for him. And again, credit to those big defensemen for the Vancouver Canucks for taking up all that space and just building a wall around their goaltender right now.
Yeah, and so you always hear about the fourth one being the toughest win. And again, there's so much exceptional talent in that Oilers lineup that could rise to the occasion. I don't think anybody would be surprised if McDavid had another one of those big games like Game 2, but one thing to say it's now on him to get out there and perform, but it doesn't just have to be him. Draisaitl, Hyman, Kane, RNH. I mean, we all know the names. There hasn't been enough, obviously, from enough of those guys through 5 games of the series, and that's why the Oilers are in the predicament that they're in. And so, a lot of talk throughout the series about the Canucks playing with house money, and to a degree they are. But now they're one step away from the Western Conference Final. And so that brings on some pressure in and of itself. I mean, the Canucks know that, they can still absorb a loss and have a chance to advance here. The Oilers aren't in that position. But if you're the Vancouver Canucks, you want to eliminate the Edmonton Oilers. You've got them on the ropes now. Can they deliver that knockout punch on Saturday night?
We'll all be watching. And, of course, we'll all be listening to Rink Wide Vancouver as well on the post-game side of things. Jeff, marvelous stuff here today. Enjoy the game Saturday. We'll catch up Monday.
Yeah, enjoy the long weekend, guys, and we'll see what the weekend brings.
It's not a long weekend for us, Jeff.
Yeah, we're all working.
Fair enough.
Hey, everybody, if you're enjoying what you're seeing here, then follow along with Sekeres Price on YouTube. I promise more content coming.
The kids call it subscribe on YouTube.
Well, how about liking it?
Do that as well. Smash it right now.